Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the AI Showdown! Which model is best?
It's absolutely crazy that we have free access to things like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. But let's be honest, the paid models definitely give you a bit of an unlock here. Really, across almost all of these models, what you're getting is a few more bells and whistles, so early access to models, things like that. But primarily, you're skirting around those daily usage limits that kill your flow. The question I keep getting from a lot of people I speak to is which model is actually the best? Like, where should your 20 or 30 bucks go each month? Full warning, it depends. I appreciate that this could still be out of the price range for some people, but regardless, I think the next few minutes will give you a view on which model actually deserves your time and your money. So, the contenders. I can hear hopefully some boxing sound effects. Ding ding! I'm looking at ChatGPT Plus, Claude Pro, Gemini Advance, and Perplexity Pro. They're all within each other's price range, but each of them has their thing. I've been testing them across features, usability, and how relevant they actually are if you're working in education. My main test was just my actual work. Like, can this make my Monday mornings a little less painful? Nick, any early tips? Who's your money on? Who's going to win?
I have heavy biases. I love Claude. I am Team Claude. But you're right. There are use cases for all of these things. Fortunate to have access to ChatGPT and Gemini as well. Nature of the work to play in terms of these kind of things. And until recently, Gemini 2.5 Pro was my go-to, right? Until Claude 3.7, 4, and everything else. I'm actually on the edge of my seat. I'm genuinely curious. I know you tend to just at least as much as I do. So what have you got for us?
Well, hear me out. I'm just going to get beat to the punch. ChatGPT Plus is probably my gold star recommendation. For
Oh,
me, it kind of feels like it was built for the average white-collar worker's productivity needs. And I know, Nick, you seem shocked because your precious Claude or whatever else, but let me run through my average Monday morning and why it may actually support me. So first, I'm going to feed it some meeting notes. I'm going to get it to write a bit of a summary plus a committee cover sheet. It'll recommend an icebreaker for my team check-in this afternoon. That policy document that I'm working on, it's supposed to be writing that. I'm going to do a quick sector scan, see what else is out there using the deep research function. Looks across the sector. It supplies principles that match my writing style. It does a quick summary analysis of some data on student feedback. This is work that would have usually taken me weeks, and it's all done before my coffee is even cold. Plus, having image generation built in where it renders text almost perfectly every time, it's honestly a no-brainer in terms of bang for buck. Sure, I can hear you bristling because some of these features are in other models, but the thing that ChatGPT does really well, particularly with the paid version, is memory. This is the biggest game changer of ChatGPT. It has deep contextual memory across things you tell it, plus other chats. Sure, there's a bit of cognitive dissonance when it kind of refers to a random chat you had 3 months ago, and you thought it was totally inconsequential. You're just kind of asking something about like how to cook something, and suddenly it's informing today's answer. But for it to remember your writing style, the way you like to describe data, your weird institutional quirks that it kind of does get to pick up, and again, it gets a bit concerning, it's the genuine promise of an assistant that never calls in sick.
I can't argue with this. I'm there on the Jarvis thing, okay? And the thing that OpenAI does best, I want to call out, is that they push boundaries. So analytics, they were first there, and it was amazing in terms of what you could feed, what you could generate from it. Claude has come along, Gemini has come along, and they come into the place. But OpenAI, not content to rest on their laurels, were the first into voice, right? I no longer need to type using these or these. I'm now talking with this thing. And that sort of crosses that threshold to that assistant that never calls in sick. The image generation, first full multimodal. I hear you. I hear you. These are tricky things. I guess it's the anti-empire bias in me. It's the scrappy little upstart sort of rebel sort of self-identification that I'm going for here. But no, I'm interested. You're selling me on ChatGPT. I'm increasingly on the fence. Go on. Where are we going next?
Now, before I defend Claude and say why it's a silver, it's definitely in the running. Is there anything you want to go why you love Claude so much? You've previously referenced its writing style and how it understands you.
Context window was a big one for a while, right? So that just for reference is the raw memory, the working memory that the thing has. Claude's context window, I forget the exact numbers, but you could drop hundreds of thousands of words effectively back when others could maybe take 10, in 2030. I'll have to dig up the exact numbers at some point. But when it initially came out, the selling point of Claude was that. So what you could do is just drop context, drop samples, you know what I mean? You reference writing samples and everything, or different PDFs. That was the selling point. I also find it slightly more informal. This is a weird thing to say. This is anthropomorphic of me, but ChatGPT feels a wee bit preppy to me. Do you know what I mean? It's hi. Whereas I feel a slightly more relaxed Australasian vibe to Claude. Again,
Mm,
this is me just reflecting on the tool. Like,
mm.
yeah, I see the frown. There's a note of concern in your.
I know, I agree with you. I think for me, Claude kind of feels like the HBO of large language models. I go to Claude when I want premium writing, a deep analysis, being able to feed it a 50-page PDF from McKinsey and ask it to remove all that corporate fluff. Sorry, anyone listening from McKinsey, and just give me good insights. Elite. If ChatGPT is your average white collar worker, Claude is your boutique consulting firm. The quality of responses that come from Claude is, on balance, I'm going to say it, better. You're right. It doesn't have that prep, whitewashed, I'm going to say soulless. They've injected soul into the answer somehow. Now, I'm going to say, as much as the context window is amazing, their memory functionality is pretty limited. And I actually don't like the way they've interpreted similar functionalities to ChatGPT. I think their project function. But where ChatGPT has this kind of broad memory across everything, it's the depth and narrowness of Claude's context window that really is just, as you said, amazing. You're going to get a really good deep dive in one chat versus having someone remember what you said kind of 5 months back. Also, the big thing about Claude, which I love so much, is Canvas. It's still one of the best out there. So this is when you'll be able to create things like apps and other things in another window. I'm going to claim user error here, but the results you can get in Claude Canvas for things like personalized software, for simulations. I've spoken about my man vs. gorilla simulation many times. It's just leaps and bounds what I've ever been able to get from ChatGPT.
I think that canvas as well. I just want to call that out. Explainers. Interactives in terms of this. Think from a teaching point of view, what you can do is insert complex content. What have I seen? Just yesterday, I was looking at something, an explainer of something called a Galton board, which is how normal distributions work and how all of that works. Nothing more powerful than click a button and, oh, okay, now I understand because visually I've engaged with the thing. I can mess with parameters, take complex PDFs or articles, peer reviewed journals, insert that, give me an explainer, an interactive explainer dashboard. Wonderful stuff. So yeah, you've taught me back into Claude. Thank you. I appreciate this. Really confirming my biases here.
No problem. I'm sure that was a hard sell. I'm going to
Yeah.
give Google's product Gemini +1 for their canvas as well. It is actually really good. And Google's models more broadly are genuinely great. The responses you get, the coding capabilities, they're on par with the best. The benchmarks often show it outperforming everyone. Plus, unlimited access to Notebook LM, which is a product I'd happily pay $20 for on its own. It's great. What you're getting with the Google paid model is excellent. But, and this is a really big but, Google's AI offerings are actually spread across so many different apps and widgets that the experience of using any of them is honestly a bit of a headache. Where I know exactly where I stand with ChatGPT or Claude, with Google, I'm having to use about 5 different experiences to get anything done. So even VO is on another platform over here. AI Studio is for custom things and using some of these other options. So over here, or their run-of-the-mill Gemini app, which for me, it just feels a bit, I'm going to say lifeless. It also keeps threatening to use my search history, which I'm actually not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but in general, it makes me feel uncomfortable.
I would agree with most of that. It's an odd thing that the OG in the AI space, that the owners of Translate, of Maps, and all these other things that they lag a wee bit in terms of this consumer generative AI experience. Like, I mean, I will say though, you've nodded to AI Studio. There are some really cool things, but they're siloed, you know, and there's not that all-in-one thing of ChatGPT. So yeah, Gemini is amazing.
And I think this is the difference between AI first companies and companies that are
Yeah.
looking to embed AI through their offerings. Let's talk at LLM, but it's really hard to say. Perplexity Pro. For me, it's just enhanced search, and it has ended up on this list because it's something I have been using here and there. It's an interesting product, but for me, it's kind of if Google search and ChatGPT had a baby. On paper, it seems like a good value buy because you get good research. It's generally excellent. That kind of research component gives you sources. It's current. It kind of fact checks itself as it goes, which is something that a lot of these other models get criticism for. It gives you access to a wide variety of models in there. So you've got access to the GPT model, the ChatGPT models, to Claude and to Grok and a few others. But honestly, for what I do most day to day, it kind of feels like I'm paying $20 for good, like high quality Google searches. And with Google playing hardball with some of the AI summaries, the gap is really closing there. There's also a lot of technical headaches with Perplexity. in terms of the limited context window, means it often kind of loses thread of the conversation after just one or two prompts. So that what I'm going for there is something quite limited. I'm going to call out one thing though. Their labs functionality is like an agent in a box. We've spoken about agents before. So Perplexity isn't a mainstay for me yet, but I can see them competing in the race. It's just around how they differentiate themselves.
Yeah, they're a surprise addition, to be honest, in that company. I mean, I just echo that ChatGPT plus Google Search, baby. Yeah, but limited by comparison. So the dark horse, if you like.
Based on everything above, you could make the argument that if you're in the Google suite already, Gemini may not be too much of a stretch. You're kind of used to their products. But the tool most worthy of your spend is ChatGPT. For now. It's an all-rounder, and the memory features are too helpful to work past. That being said, if your work's a little more specialist, focused on writing, on coding, and you don't need image generation, I'm going to go +1 for Claude here. All in all, use the free ones for a bit, test what works for your practice, and then go from there. Well, listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please leave us a review, share around with the network, and most of all, hit subscribe on whatever platform you are at. For those watching on YouTube, we are on all your podcast platforms. Of those who'd love to see our face, you can find us on YouTube too. We'd love to tell you what's on next week's episode, but it is a world that moves way too fast. You'll just have to tune in. Until then, stay curious, stay intelligent, stay the human in the loop.